May the words of my mouth and the meditation on all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
So this past week, I spent some time visiting family and friends up in Massachusetts, where I grew up. It's beautiful and peaceful, and for me, returning there every summer is like a Sabbath touchstone, a time and place to reconnect, to remember where I've come from, to rest and appreciate God's creation in all of the beauty of nature, sea and sky, and in lifelong relationships. So my brother is a new grandfather to a now 3-year-old little boy who is adorable, and he reveled in all of the family attention over the holiday weekend. And he's sweet and inquisitive and all of the things that you like about little ones. So on the 4th, we were all together for a cookout, and he was wearing a couple of strands of patriotic, like Mardi Gras beads, a couple necklaces around his neck. And then he came over to me and he asked me to attach them one to the other, so that instead of 2 separate necklaces, he would have 2 loops connected. And then he called me over close and he put one loop over his head and he put the other loop over my head, yoking us together. And we had to be gentle and careful, staying very close to each other, our colorful beads connecting us. And then one by one, he went around the room, linking the other grown-ups to him with the colorful beads, each of us leaning in when it was our turn, close to him so that we could be joined together, smiling and enjoying that closeness, being careful to move together so that the beads never strained too tightly around either of us. And it was just this sweet and funny moment, but I couldn't help but find myself thinking about this image of being yoked. And Jesus' words in our gospel this morning, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." I've always pictured Jesus' yoke being like the heavy wooden kind that you see on oxen. But I wonder if it couldn't be a little bit more like Mardi Gras beads, lighter and less burdensome. Perhaps this yoke is his teaching, his discipleship, his way of life, even his grace. Jesus invites us, the weary, to lean in and learn from him. He's gentle and humble in heart, and he tells us that his yoke is easy, his burden light. Such a paradox after all the teachings we've heard about the high cost of discipleship. But, we follow a Lord who says to gain your life, you lose it, full of paradoxes. And St. Augustine said, "Love makes all the hardest and most distressing things altogether easy and almost nothing." Share my yoke, Jesus says. It is easy and my burden light. To take up Jesus' yoke is to be deeply connected to the one who embodies God's grace, yes, and God's justice, mercy, and compassion. And to be yoked to Jesus is to set down those burdens that keep us from a deep relationship with the living God. I think there are so many burdens that we carry that threaten to weigh us down. Burdens of disappointment, grief, loneliness, resentments, burdens of illness, financial insecurity, fear. And then I think there are some of those burdens that we might not even recognize as such, things like busyness, control, perfectionism, pride, self-sufficiency. All those that we strain under that prevent us from resting in Jesus, learning from Jesus and sharing his yoke, giving ourselves over so that we might live his way of life. And it is Jesus who gives us this rest for our souls with some of the sweetest, most beautiful words ever attributed to him. "Come unto me, all ye that are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Where do you long for rest in your lives today? Can you imagine resting in and with Jesus? Last week, Jesus challenged us to offer others a cup of cold water. This week, he offers it to us. Come unto me, all ye, all y'all, as our presiding bishop likes to say. Can we lay our burdens down and accept this beautiful invitation? I think sometimes it's much easier to give and to be a doer than to receive, because in receiving, we have to acknowledge that maybe we are parched, broken, in need of something that isn't fixed by all of our handy distractions, all of those things that tempt to fill up that empty ache that might linger within us. And so we get caught up in the doing and the busyness, and we miss the opportunity to rest with the God who knows and loves us just as we are. The rest that Jesus promises is an easy rest. It doesn't mean that we won't struggle or face pain or deep sadness. In my own life, I've experienced Jesus' peace most intensely in those moments of feeling pain or helplessness. And for me, it was this kind of presence of groundedness, holiness, at oneness that surrounded me in those moments, and that I believe surrounds all of us on our life's journey. So today we're invited to lay down those burdens and to make room for holy rest. And let's take up Jesus' offer to be yoked with him in a life of discipleship that is light and life-giving, that invites us to lean in, perhaps with the openness and joy of a child, and that leads to refreshment and deep, deep rest our souls so desperately need. Come unto me, all ye, all y'all that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest.